نستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. يقول سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأوحي إلى نوح أنه لن يؤمن من قومك إلا من قد آمن فلا تبتئس بما كانوا يفعلون واصنع الفلك بأعيننا ووحينا ولا تخاطبني في الذين ظلموا إنهم مغرقون ويصنع الفلك وكلما مر عليه ملأ من قومه سخروا منه قال إن تسخروا منا فإنا نسخر منكم كما تسخرون فسوف تعلمون من يأتيه عذاب يخزيه فسوف تعلمون من يأتيه عذاب يخزيه ويحل عليه عذاب مقيم حتى إذا جاء أمرنا وفارت النور قل نحمل فيها من كل زوجين اثنين وأهلك إلا من سبق عليه القول ومن آمن وما آمن معه إلا قليل وقال اركبوا فيها بسم الله مجريها ومرساها إن ربي لغفور رحيم وهي تجري بهم في موج كالجبال ونادى نوح ابنه وكان في معزل يا بني اركب معنا ولا تكن مع الكافرين قال سآوي إلى جبل يعصمني من الماء قال لا عاصم اليوم من أمر الله إلا من رحم وحال بينهما الموج فكان من المغرقين وقيل يا أرض ابلعي ماءك ويا سماء أقلعي وغيض الماء وقضي الأمر واستوت على الجود وقيل بعدا للقوم الظالمين صدق الله العظيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما اللهم أرنا حقيقة الأشياء كما هي اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So we continue with Surah Hud, and as we saw before, we're going to talk about Amba'ur Rusul, stories of the messengers of Allah, those messengers that were sent to nations with clear evidence and on not getting the appropriate response, after repeated reminders, repeatedly showing them the evidence in various ways, um, their opposition towards the messengers resulted in them being destroyed. And the messenger and whoever believed with the messenger, they were saved. So we start all the way from the very first Rasul, Nuh alayhi salam. Prior to him, there were Anbiya, but not Rusul as such. So he's the first one with this mantle, this responsibility.
Title.
And as a result, he is the first one, the refusal to whom would result in um, the complete the complete annihilation of the people with rescuing of those who believed. So وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا أعوذ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا I went a little too back, sorry. وَأُوحِيَ إِلَى نُوحٍ. So it was revealed to Nuh alayhi salam after he's done telling them about Tawheed, about his prophethood, about afterlife. He's portrayed the message, relayed the message in every which way possible for as long as he did, 950 years. And here comes the permission that Nuh, ya Nuh, no one else is going to believe. أنه لن يؤمن من قومك إلا من قد آمن. Nobody else is going to believe from your people other than those who have already believed. فلا تبتئس بما كانوا يفعلون. So whatever they continue to do, whatever the way they're acting, do not let that distress you. وَاصْنَعِ الْفُلْكَ بِأَعْيُنِنَا وَوَحْيِنَا. And so build a ship under our supervision and in accordance with our revelation. وَلَا تُخَاطِبْنِي فِي الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا. And do not plead before me on behalf of the ظالمين. إِنَّهُمْ مُغْرَقُونَ. They are all going to be drowned. Now, Nuh alayhi salam, prior to this, we know that in his frustration and his exasperation, he has called for the adab. He has asked Allah that, Ya Allah, that's it. I don't want to have anything to do with these people anymore. Take them down. This is as much as I could do. I want for us to be rescued, and I want for these people to taste a punishment for how they've treated us. And so here comes the permission, here comes the fulfillment of that dua. Allah tells Nuh alayhi salam to start building a ship. Now he's building a ship with no water body in sight. He's constructing this ship for the protection of, for his own protection and that of people with him, and as he's instructed other animals as well. People, the disbelievers looking at Nuh alayhi salam are like, what? How do you, what in the world are you, what's gotten into you? Are you mad? Why would you be building a ship in the middle of nowhere with no water body in sight? وَيَصْنَعُ الْفُلْكَ. And he was building the ship. وَكُلَّمَا مَرَّ عَلَيْهِ مَلَأٌ مِّن قَوْمِهِ سَخِرُوا مِنْ. Every time the chiefs of his people passed by him, سَخِرُوا مِنْ, they ridiculed him. They ridiculed. قَالَ إِن تَسْخَرُوا مِنَّا. He responded, if you ridicule us now, فَإِنَّ نَسْخَرُ مِنْكُمْ كَمَا تَسْخَرُونَ. We will ridicule you as you are ridiculing us. So this is how far Nuh alayhi salam's iman is allowing him and his followers to see that they're taking precautions when, for whatever everybody else can see and judge by, there are no precautions necessary. That this is an observation of taqwa, that um, they're living by taqwa, and so that taqwa becomes a source of mockery. It makes them look strange. It makes them look weird. Why would you do such a thing? Why would you spend so much time working so hard on something you don't really need to? It is because Iman allows for them to see, believe in what others wouldn't see or would not believe in. And so this work that is put in to build this ship, that when the azab of Allah hits, you have something to keep afloat. You have something, it was very concrete as far as Nuh alayhi salam is concerned. It's probably more abstract with as far as we're concerned. It was more abstract with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum as well. That what are they doing? Where are they going? What's up with all the effort that they're putting in? What's up with all the um, weirdness? They're not like other people. They do stuff differently. They spend all this time doing all that stuff that normal people don't do. And because they can't, as they say, hear the music, they laugh at those who are dancing. And the people who believe necessarily are those who can hear and see things other people can. And if they're responding to what they hear and see, accordingly, those who can't hear or see that are going to look at this as something to make fun of. And so the mockery of Rasulullah SAW and the Sahaba at that time for doing all of what they were doing, and the mockery of Nuh alayhi salam and the people with him, how they're just looked at as not just odd, as mad. But they keep going. They're like, no, and when the time comes, it's simple example. All of us have been there, either on the side of the nerd or on the side of the bully, where the nerd is studying for an exam that is coming, and the bully or the not so nerd, the cool kids, are like, what's wrong with you? Why in the world are you wasting your time? There's a lot of time until the exam. We'll manage, and we'll manage. And everyone knows what happens. The nerds know and the bullies know, or the cool kids know, that eventually the exam comes and the you're just not ready. You're just not ready. And the nerd who was so much a focus of mockery now is a source of envy. And when the result comes, if the nerd has that bullying uh, tendency themselves, they're gonna come back and laugh at your face. See, I got through really well, and you either barely scraped through or you failed because you were making fun of me when you were supposed to be working. Because a nerd, technically, on account of being a nerd, and all the labels attached to those who work in time, who get the job done, who put the effort in, they're looked at as weird, and this just the word nerd signifying something to that effect. And that works for the rest of your life, especially with hereafter in consideration. فَإِنَّ نَسْخَرُ مِنْكُمْ كَمَا تَسْخَرُونَ. We will make fun of you too. We're not we're not gonna stand on this high horse and say that, oh no, it's okay, it doesn't matter. We're gonna be fine with you. We're gonna be kind and nice to you. No, you've hurt us enough. You've given us sufficient pain. When our time comes, and this is something that you see consistently within the Quran, at least on a couple of occasions, that this aspect of vengeance, wanting to get back at those people, this is accorded a dignity. This is given a space. This is acknowledged. The people of paradise are going to be looking at the people in Jahannam and looking on, looking at them suffering. Why? Because they were made to suffer at their hands, and they carry that in themselves, who want that revenge. And Allah justifies that feeling of revenge. It is how it's channeled. It can be very dangerous if not appropriately, if you're not aware of how bad it can go, of how horribly wrong it can go. It has to be contained. But if you appropriately contain it, discipline it the way you ought to, then Allah gives it the, the fulfillment that it deserves. It is not relegated as altogether demonic. It is identified as something that is human, something that you find fulfillment for, if not here, then hereafter. And so Nuh alayhi salam and the people with him straight out respond to those making fun of them, we're going to make fun of you pretty soon. فَسَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ مَنْ يَأْتِيهِ عَذَابٌ يُخْزِيهِ. You will soon find out who's going to get a punishment that is going to humiliate him. So you're going to be humiliated, and we're going to be watching, and we're going to be laughing. وَيَحِلُّ عَلَيْهِ عَذَابٌ مُقِيمٌ. And who is afflicted by an everlasting doom. حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءَ أَمْرُنَا. Finally, when our command came, وَثَارَتْ التَّنُّورُ, and the oven overflowed, and that seemed to have been a sign for Nuh alayhi salam that the oven, a particular oven or any particular oven, is going to overflow. Or maybe the whole valley is being referred to as such. قُلْ نَحْمِلْ فِيهَا مِنْ كُلٍّ زَوْجَيْنِ اثْنَيْنِ. We said to Nuh alayhi salam, take into the shape a pair of every species. وَأَهْلَكَ, and your own household. إِلَّا مَنْ سَبَقَ عَلَيْهِ الْقَوْلِ, except the one against whom the verdict of Allah has already been passed. وَمَنْ آمَنَ, and also take on board all those who've believed. Nuh alayhi salam has already been told who's allowed on board. The rest, nothing going. So as far as whatever conceivable distance, whatever land that Nuh alayhi salam and his people have in their access, this flood is going to overtake all of it. Is it going to be the entire world? Probably not. But at least wherever life, human life exists, with Nuh alayhi salam and his people, that's going to be taken care of. So yeah, when the flood abates, you want to have a source of, you want to have some cattle. I mean, that's how you continue. That's your food, right? So there's those species that have to be taken on board, maybe perhaps other animals as well. And that um, you want the cycle, the ecosystem to be preserved for whatever is going to come after the flood, because the flood is, it's the adhab of Allah. It is going to wipe everything out. And you want to be able to sustain life after it abates for as huge as the flood or as far-reaching as the flood is going to be. وَمَا آمَنَ مَعَهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ, but no one believed in him except very few. وَقَالَ ارْكَبُوا فِيهَا, the Nuh alayhi salam said, get on in it. بِسْمِ اللَّهِ مَجْرِيهَا وَمُرْسَاهَا, in the name of Allah it sails, and in the name of Allah is its anchorage. It's going to stop in the name of Allah. Inna Rabbi laghafurur rahim, most definitely my Rabb is extremely forgiving and always merciful. Holding on to the maghfirah and the rahmah of Allah when the adhab of Allah is nigh, it's around the corner, it's about to come. And Nuh alayhi salam himself and for his people, reminding them of how this is all to be in the name of Allah. How this is the barakah, the blessing, this response that you're giving to Allah for what Allah has asked of you to do. And how to respond, you begin with the name. And so responding to Allah in his name, whatever action that you're doing, bringing him into consideration so as to keep yourself in check, so as to remind yourself of his mercy, so as to give yourself hope, so as to invoke from within yourself that faith that is necessary for the action that is demanded of you. Again, there is fear like no other. How is this going to turn around? How is this going to work out? What the flood we're about to experience, the ship that we're about to go on, there's a whole lot up there. There's a whole lot going on. And so to find solace in holding on to the rope of Allah and holding on to the name of Allah, that's where your conviction comes to keep going. Inna Rabbi laghafurur rahim wa hiya tajri bihim. And so the ship sailed with them on board, something that people thought would never be possible. Ship sailing in the middle of the land, what's going on? But the flood was that great flood. في موج كالجبال, in mountainous waves. ونادى نوح ابنه, and Nuh alayhi salam called out to his son. وكان في معزل. So his ma'azil is translated both ways, that his son was either on the shore, on a corner where water had not reached as yet, or he was just aloof in his head. And that's a state of mind as well, that you're on the shore. You haven't really dived in. Iman is diving in. To stay on the shore, to not really believe, is to stay at the corner, to stay, to not really get in, to be aloof. Ya bunayya irkam ma'ana. So my dear son, come aboard with us. وَلَا تَكُمْ مَعَ الْكَافِرِينَ. And do not be with the disbelievers. قَالَ سَآوِي إِلَى جَبَلٍ. He responded, I'll take refuge by climbing up some mountain. Now already the mockery that they'd made of Nuh alayhi salam and his people, they're seeing something of that coming true. That it has rained enough for that ship to now be actually sailing. Yet the conviction with which they had mocked, the conviction with which they had disbelieved, it is so firm, it is so deep rooted that even now the words of Nuh alayhi salam are having no effect. Even now, the dissonance is such that they're like, no, 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 no. Whatever we held on to that's going to protect us is going to protect us. I'm going to take a refuge by climbing up some mountain. How big can this flood actually get? I'll be on top of a mountain. I'll be okay. Don't you worry. يَعْصِمُنِي مِنَ الْمَاءِ. It will protect me from water. It's water, right? How big can water get? I've seen rain before. Luckily, this is a little more rain than before, but so be it. Can it get as high as a mountain? I don't think so. I'll be okay. So this conviction in what they're already holding on to, even though Nuh alayhi salam's threat is coming true. قال لا عاصم اليوم من أمر الله. Nuh alayhi salam said, no one can protect you from the amr of Allah. This is Allah's command, Allah's Allah's purposeful directive that has come, and that is in sync with whatever you have ignored in your life prior to this meaning and purpose of reality of your life. This is that meaning finding fulfillment in another way, that those who do not live up to that meaning, do not acknowledge the meaningfulness of their own creation, they're done away with. إِلَّا مَن رَحِمَ, except the one He has mercy on. That's the only one who's going to be saved from the adhab of Allah. وَحَالَ بَيْنَهُمَا الْمَوْجِ, and the waves rolled between them. End of the conversation. No more talk. He was given that one last chance. He chose to refuse. فَكَانَ مِنَ الْمُغْرَقِينَ, and he was among those drowned. Apparently, he thought he still had time to climb up some mountain. But then the waves rolled in. وَقِيلَ يَا أَرْضُ ابْلَعِي مَاءَكِ وَيَا سَمَاءُ أَقْلِعِي. And so it was said to the earth, swallow your water, and sky, withhold. وَغِيضَ الْمَاء, and the water subsided. وَقُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ, and the matter was accomplished. وَاسْتَوَتْ عَلَى الْجُودِ, and the ship came to rest upon the mountain of Judy. وَقِيلَ, and it was proclaimed, بُعْدًا لِلْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ, away with these unjust people. وَنَادَ نُوحُ رَبَّهُ, Nuh alayhi salam called out to his Rabb. فَقَالَ, and said, رَبِّ إِنِّي إِنَّ ابْنِي مِنْ أَهْلِي, my Rabb, my son is from my family. Now recall, end of Makkah, migration about to happen. A lot of the Sahaba are going to go to Yathrib, leaving their families behind, leaving their sons behind, leaving their brothers behind, leaving their fathers, mothers, sisters. So many of their family are going to be left behind. Yathrib is that ship. Medina is going to be the ship of Nuh alayhi salam that is going to be saved from the adhab that is going to strike the rest of at least the Quraysh, but then even the rest of the Arabian Peninsula. And so people are being informed straight up that even the Prophet of Allah, the exception was not made for their family. There was no favoritism of any sort. If they didn't respond, so be it. So Nuh alayhi salam asks Allah, Ya Allah, my son, was from my family. وَإِنَّ وَعْدَكَ الْحَقِّ, and your promise is definitely true. وَأَنْتَ أَحْكَمُ الْحَاكِمِينَ, and you are the most just of all judges. قَالَ يَا نُوحِ, Allah said, Nuh, إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ, he wasn't from your family. He was not of your family at all. The ahlik, the promise towards his ahl, extended to the family of Iman in the context of the adab. And then there's also readings that altogether identify that that son of Nuh alayhi salam was not even his biological son. That his wife was that much given into infidelity. She wasn't faithful to him. إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ, but then definitely he wasn't part of the family of Iman, and so he wasn't on the ship. إِنَّهُ عَمَلٌ غَيْرُ صَالِحٍ, he is now. Literally, this would translate to he's a bad action, or he's the embodiment of bad conduct. What a bad human being looks like. So that's at the end of the day Allah's characterization of people as to what kind of conduct that emanates from them. فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ, so do not ask me about things you do not know. إِنِّي أَعِظُكَ أَن تَكُونَ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ, I admonish you lest you become of those taken over by emotion. Again, taken over by emotion, acting without knowledge. Because what emotion does is that it overwhelms you, so that the better course of action to take, that you reflect on and respond more responsibly to the situation, you don't do that. You just go in with where emotion drives. Knowledge helps identify, okay, not this, that, even though this is so much of where I want to go, but that. In this case, Nuh alayhi salam, his love for his son and his complaint or dua or request, whatever it was at that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no, no. قال رب إني أعوذ بك. Nuh alayhi salam said, my Rabb, I seek your protection. And أسألك ما ليس لي به علم, from asking you for what I know nothing of. وإلا تغفر لي وترحمني, and if you do not forgive me, and if you do not have mercy on me, أكون من الخاسرين, I will be of the losers. إلى يا نوح اهبط بسلام منا وبركات. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Nuh, descend from the mountain with peace and blessing from us. عليك وعلى أمم ممن معك, upon you and generations from those with you. وأمم سنمتعهم, and there are going to be other communities whom we will allow to enjoy the comforts of this life. ثم يمسهم منا عذاب أليم, then a painful punishment from us will overtake them. So now on, this is the filtered, purged part of humanity that is now going to carry forward the prophetic responsibility. They're going to carry forward where Allah wants humanity to go towards. The other, the necros part, the diseased pathological part, which was only going to corrupt the rest of the body and not allow for it to live up to its meaning, that has been done away with. That amputation has already happened. It just so happens that the amputated part was pretty much, in terms of mass, 90% or more. And the saved part is just a little bit that was with the few people that were with Nuh alayhi salam. And so now they're going to continue, but it's not going to be that every single time somebody goes wrong or a part of the community goes wrong, they're going to be wiped out with a complete annihilation. No, that's a special circumstance for the prophets. Neither is it to be assumed that anyone who undergoes suffering is undergoing a punishment from Allah, that they're being afflicted, they're being tormented. No, that is not to be taken. Again, special circumstances with prophets and them having communicated the message and the arrogance of the people and the whole process. So what is going to happen from now on, that people, even if they are being blessed in this world, but they're wrong, or their attitude is that of rejecting Allah or arrogance against Allah, not living up to that meaning, they'll still be given here in this world, but then they're going to be driven to a painful punishment. There is no guarantee that the people who are surviving with Nuh alayhi salam, their future generations are immune or invincible, that they're spiritually, they've attained to this purity. No, it doesn't matter who your ancestors were. All the more reason that if your ancestry was as awesome or as blessed or as brave or as strong in faith as the prophets were and the people with the prophets were, all the more reason that you should be one of gratitude. You should be on their legacy. You should emulate them. It actually puts more responsibility on you rather than just in a privilege of exclusivity in which you're better than everybody else. No. The people who are saved, their future generations, their responsibility is on themselves. These are from the stories of the unseen which we are revealing to you. Neither you nor your people knew them before this. As far as Rasulullah is concerned, as far as all of Quraysh are concerned, take Bani Ismail in its entirety, from Ibrahim alayhi salam, as far as the other lineage from Ibrahim alayhi salam, that is the Bani Israel, they have these stories with them. They know about Nuh alayhi salam. They know about the stories. But as far as the Bani Ismail is concerned, the Arabs are concerned, their ancestors are, they don't know about this. There's no scripture there. There is no revelation of this sort. These stories are a novelty in the Quraysh. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and for the best part, most of Quraysh have no access to them. They're too unlettered to have access to them. And so for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be going into these details, Allah is putting this out as a sign that this is from me. فَاصْبِرْ إِنَّ الْعَاقِبَةَ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So endure patiently. For sure, the final outcome, the aqibah, the best end, belongs to the people of taqwa. The moral of the story. وَإِلَىٰ عَادٍ أَخَاهُمْ هُودًا. And to Ad we sent their brother Hud. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ. And he said to his people, my people, worship Allah. مَا لَكُم مِّن إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ. You don't have any other ilah other than him. إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا مُفْتَرُونَ. You are nothing but inventors of lies. Whatever you've fabricated other than Allah, that's messed up. Where'd you bring that up from? How'd you just concoct that without real knowledge, without any evidence? In antum illa muftarun. Ya qawmi la as'alukum alayhi ajra. My people, I don't ask you for any reward for this. My teaching, whatever I'm calling you towards, there's nothing in it for me, and you know it. It's just, I have your best interest at heart. In ajri illa ala alladhi fattarani. My reward is on the one who brought me to existence. This is between me and him. As far as reward is concerned, that's me and him. You need to listen to what I have to say. You know that there's no vestige, because a suspicion is legitimately launched against the one calling towards truth. What's in it for you? Because that's how most of religion operates for them. And he distinguishes himself on that account. No, this is not what it is. I got no interests here. If anything, I'm putting everything on the line. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. So aren't you going to think? Aren't you going to use your reason? وَيَا قَوْمِ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ. My people, ask your Rabb to forgive you. ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ. And then turn to him repentant. Recognize, realize what you're doing. You're wrong big time. And then make amends. Start walking towards him. يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدْرَارًا. Once you do that, he is going to send abundant rain upon you from the sky. وَيَزِدْكُمْ قُوَّةً إِلَىٰ قُوَّتِكُمْ. And he will strengthen you by adding to your strength. You're already very strong. He's going to make you stronger. وَلَا تَتَوَلَّوْا مُجْرِمِينَ. And do not turn away as criminals. قَالُوا يَا هُودُ مَا جِئْتَنَا بِبَيِّنَةٍ. They said, Hud, you have brought us nothing in terms of clear proof. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَارِكِي آلِهَتِنَا عَنْ قَوْلِكَ. And we're not going to desert our gods just on your words. وَمَا نَحْنُ لَكَ بِمُؤْمِنٍ. We're not going to believe in you one bit. إِن نَقُولُ إِلَّا اعْتَرَكَ بَعْضُ آلِهَتِنَا بِسُوءٍ. Rather, we think that the best we can say about you is that our gods have possessed you with an evil affliction. All Hud alayhi salam said, Inni ushhidullah. I call Allah to witness. Washhadu, and you all be witness as well. Inni bari'um mimma tushrikun. I got nothing to do with whatever it is that you associate with Allah. All the shuraka, all the shirk that you do. Min dunihi, other than Him, fakiduni, jami'an, thumma la tunzirun. So plot. Do the best you can, bring it all together against me and don't give me a chance. Inni tawakkaltu ala Allahi rabbi wa rabbikum. I for sure put my trust in Allah, my Rabb, and your Rabb. What's the best you can do? All of what you threaten me with, at the end of the day, you too are in the control of Allah. He is your Rabb. مَا مِن دَابَّةٍ إِلَّا هُوَ آخِذٌ بِنَاصِيَتِهَا. There is no living creature, but He is holding it. Allah is holding every creature by its forelock. That's how much control He has. Inna Rabbi ala siratim mustaqim. My Rabb is on a straight path. فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا. But if you turn away, فَقَدْ أَبْلَغْتُكُمْ مَا أُرْسِلْتُ بِهِ إِلَيْكُمْ. I have communicated to you the message with which I was sent to you. وَيَسْتَخْلِفُ رَبِّي قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ. And my Rabb will bring another people to replace you. وَلَا تَضُرُّونَهُ شَيْئًا. And you cannot harm him one bit. إِنَّ رَبِّي عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ حَفِيظٌ. And my Rabb is a protector over everything. وَلَمَا جَاءَ أَمْرُنَا. So when our amr came through, نَجَّيْنَا هُودًا وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ. We saved Hud and those who believed with him. بِرَحْمَةٍ مِنَّا. By a mercy from us. وَنَجَّيْنَاهُمْ مِنْ عَذَابٍ غَلِيظٍ. And we saved them from a harsh punishment. وَتِلْكَ عَادٍ. That's Ad. جَحَدُوا بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ وَعَصَوْا رُسُلَهُ. They denied the ayat of their Rabb and disobeyed his messengers. وَاتَّبَعُوا أَمْرَ كُلِّ جَبَّارٍ عَنِيدٍ. And they followed the command of every obstinate oppressor. وَأُتْبِعُوا فِي هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا لَعْنَةً وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. A curse was made to follow them in the life of this world as well as on the day of judgment. Whenever they're going to be remembered, they're going to be remembered with this la'na. أَلَا إِنَّ عَادًا كَفَرُوا رَبَّهُم. And for sure, Ad refused to accept their Rabb. أَلَا بُعْدًا لِعَادٍ قَوْمِ هُودٍ. So for sure, away with Ad, the people of Hud. وَإِلَى ثَمُودَ أَخَاهُمْ صَالِحًا. And so we sent to the Thamud their brother Salih. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ. He said, my people, worship Allah. مَا لَكُم مِّن إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ. You don't have anyone other than Him as a God, as an ilah. هُوَ أَنشَأَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ. He is the one who raised you from the earth. وَاسْتَعْمَرَكُم. And settled you therein. فَاسْتَغْفِرُوهُ. So seek His forgiveness. ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ. And turn to Him in repentance. إِنَّ رَبِّي قَرِيبٌ مُجِيبٌ. For sure, my Rabb is close, ready to respond. قَالُوا يَا صَالِحُ قَدْ كُنْتَ فِينَا مَرْجُوًّا قَبْلَ هَذَا. They said, Saleh, you were the center of our hopes. You had such potential. You could have gone places until now. أَتَنْهَانَا نَعْبُدَ مَا يَعْبُدُ آبَاؤُنَا. Are you going to stop us from worshipping what our fathers used to worship? وَإِنَّنَا لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّمَّا تَدْعُونَا إِلَيْهِ مُرِيبٍ. And we are in serious doubt about what you're calling us to. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ. Saleh alayhi Islam responded, my people, أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِن كُنْتُ عَلَى بَيِّنَةٍ مِّن رَبِّي. Don't you see that if I am on clear proof from my Rabb, وَآتَانِي مِنْهُ رَحْمَةً. And He has blessed me with a blessing, with His mercy. فَمَن يَنْصُرُنِي مِنَ اللَّهِ إِنْ عَصَيْتُ. Who's going to save me from Allah if I disobey Him? فَمَا تَزِيدُونَنِي غَيْرَ تَخْسِيرٍ. If that's what ends up happening, then you're not increasing me in anything but loss. وَيَا قَوْمِ هَذِهِ نَاقَةُ اللَّهِ لَكُمْ آيَةً. And my people, this is a camel of Allah for you as a sign. فَذَرُوهَا تَأْكُلْ فِي أَرْضِ اللَّهِ. So let her be, so that she can eat freely on the earth of Allah. وَلَا تَمَسُّوهَا بِسُوءٍ. And do not ever touch her with any evil intention. فَيَأْخُذَكُمْ عَذَابٌ قَرِيبٌ. Or you would be seized by an impending punishment. They demanded a miracle of Salih alayhi salam. It was given to them, but it comes with a price tag. It comes with requirements that you have to fulfill. All the ayat of Allah, they're not just given. Ayats have to be responded to, taken seriously, given their due regard. فَعَقَرُوهَا. But they hamstrung her. فَقَالَ. They killed her. Salih alayhi salam said, تمتعوا في داركم ثلاثة أيام. So live, enjoy yourselves for 3 days in your homes. ذلك وعد غير مكذوب. That is an unfailing promise. فلما جاء أمرنا. So when our command came, when our amr came, نجينا صالحا والذين آمنوا معه برحمة منا. We saved Saleh and those who believed with him out of mercy from us. وَمِنْ خِزْيِ يَوْمِئِذٍ, and the humiliation of that day. إِنَّ رَبَّكَ هُوَ الْقَوِيُّ الْعَزِيزُ, and for sure, your Rabb, He is the strong, the mighty. وَأَخَذَ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا الصَّيْحَةَ, and a terrible shriek seized those who did dhulm. فَأَصْبَحُوا فِي دِيَارِهِمْ جَاثِمِينَ, so they became corpses, dead bodies, lying in their houses, upside down. كَأَن لَّمْ يَغْنَوْا فِيهَا, as if they never lived there before. أَلَا إِنَّ ثَمُودَ كَفَرُوا رَبَّهُم, without a doubt, Thamud denied their Rabb. أَلَا بُعْدًا لِثَمُود, and so away with the Thamud. Continuing, so we just spoke about the three Rusul that came before Ibrahim alayhi salam. Then Ibrahim alayhi salam, his story is mentioned in these surahs. We saw he wasn't mentioned in A'raf at all. He was mentioned in An'am instead. And here he wasn't mentioned in Yunus, and we find a mention here in Hud. However, his story is not brought in as like a messenger in the form that goes to a nation and then the nation is rejects him and then the adab comes on the nation. Even though that aspect is, it seems to be there for Ibrahim alayhi salam, it is hinted at but not explicated too much as such. His journey was very unique. Yes, and there's different phases to his journey as well. Perhaps at a different time we're going to talk about it. Here, one of those aspects is mentioned when the angels came to Ibrahim alayhi salam. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَتْ رُسُلُنَا بِإِبْرَاهِيمَ بِالْبُشْرَى, and certainly there came our messengers to Ibrahim alayhi salam with glad tidings. قالوا سلاما, they offered him salam. قال سلام, he also returned their salam. فما لبث أن جاء بعجل حنيذ, within no time he brought a roasted calf. So as you would expect, Ibrahim alayhi salam, his hospitality is on the mark. Before you know it, he has something brought for them. فَلَمَّا رَأَى أَيْدِيَهُمْ لَا تَصِلُ إِلَيْهِ, but when he found that their hands are not extending towards the food, they're not bothered with the fruit that he's brought to them, and Ibrahim alayhi salam didn't ask before bringing it, he just brought it. And that's the hospitality that you expect of him. He wasn't like, "Ab khayenge to nahi?" He was like, "No, I'm going to bring it for you." And he did bring it for them, and they're not even touching it. And in that day and age, it was suspicious because one of the, call it the honor code of criminals, was that they wouldn't eat from the house that they were going to either rob from or kill in or whatever. So they wouldn't eat from that house. So that sort of put Ibrahim alayhi salam off a little. Why are they not eating? Nakirahum, he felt uneasy with them. وَأَوْجَسَ مِنْهُمْ خِيفَةً, and he started feeling afraid of them. قَالُوا لَا تَخَفْ, they responded, do not be scared. إِنَّا أُرْسِلْنَا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِ لُوطٍ, we have been sent to the people of Lut alayhi salam. وَامْرَأَتُهُ قَائِمَةٌ, and his wife was standing by. فَضَحِكَتْ, so she laughed. Now, again, this is the second time within the surah that we find the good guys or the people of Iman actually finding this relieving to the point of laughing at it, that criminals are getting punished. And again, the vengeful feelings that find validation, that they're very human, they're really there. And for whatever we can understand, the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam, she can't hold her laughter. She just laughs out as soon as she hears this. It tells us a lot about what was going on in the time of Lut alayhi salam with his people. And particularly being a woman, she feels for the women of that society as completely neglected, completely ignored, and whatever else is going on in those no responsibility and complete no responsibility, no boundaries, sexual interaction between men, which was very public as well. فضحكت. So she laughed. فبشرناها بإسحاق. And so we give her the good news of Ishaq. ومن وراء إسحاق يعقوب. And also of Yaqub following Ishaq. قالت يا ويلتى ألد وأنا عجوز. And she said, my, how in the world am I going to have a child? I'm an old lady. وهذا بعلي شيخا, and my husband is really old as well. إن هذا لشيء عجيب. For sure, this is something incredibly strange. So the angels come um, with this unexpected news on both accounts. These strong, well-established people, they're going to be cut off altogether. And these apparently, this old couple that you can't expect for them to bear children. But then there's this good news that the angels come with. Again, both of these events, the wiping out of an entire nation and the glad tidings of a child, both of these are out of the ordinary events. But they make sense because they are in sync with the amr of Allah. And it is that amr of Allah that is holding together what is ordinary or what is routine. And if you're able to appreciate Him in the order, in the regularity of the world as you see it around you, then whenever that regularity is broken, whenever there is this flash of spontaneity, this novelty that is so necessary for the progression of life and human society, it adds up. It makes sense. قالوا وتعجبين من أمر الله. So they said, do you wonder at the amr of Allah? Again, consistently, whenever these out of the ordinary interventions take place, whenever there is a break in that regularity, the use of the word amr of Allah is consistent. Do you wonder at the amr of Allah? Rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu alaykum ahl al-bayt. The mercy of Allah and His blessings be upon you, people of the household. Innahu hamidun majid. Most definitely He is praiseworthy and honorable. Again, the angels can't hold themselves at expressing their wonder. And again, going back to the story of Adam alayhi salam, where they felt that this khilafah was something that was more of their right. But then Allah told them otherwise, and they understood. But then every now and then it escapes. Like these human beings are so fallible. They can't get this, and then they're so honored. And this is the most honored of the families, being the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam. إنه حميد مجيد فلما ذهب عن إبراهيم الروع. And so when Ibrahim alayhi salam recovered from the fright, he was really fearful. وجاءته البشرى. And he received the glad tiding. يجادلنا في قوم لوط. He started arguing with us for the people of Lut. Inna Ibrahima lahalimun awwahum munib. Without a doubt, Ibrahim alayhi salam was forbearing, soft-hearted, and consistently turning towards Allah. And his consistent turning towards Allah, the softness of his heart, the tolerance, it just, for him, the pain or the adhab for the people of Lut, he had a few questions. He had a few reservations there. Again, in Makkah, time of migration, there's all of these people, some whose vengeful feelings for the Quraysh, they're pretty real. Others who are feeling sorry for the Quraysh, who are feeling afraid for the Quraysh. Some of them have families, so they're really concerned that what is going to become of our families that we leave behind. And others may not necessarily have families, but like Ibrahim alayhi salam, they're very soft-hearted. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam being, of course, one of them. Feeling, if is there anything that can be done for them? Is there any way out for them? Is there anything more that I can do? That's sort of an attitude. And when that attitude has to be checked, and the importance of tough love, and the toughest with respect to wiping out an entire nation altogether, because of the greater good that is at stake. Ya Ibrahim a'rid an hadha. Ibrahim alayhi salam was told, drop it, let it go. إنه قد جاء أمر ربك. The amr of your Rabb has already come. It has been issued. وَإِنَّهُمْ آتِيهِمْ عَذَابٌ غَيْرَ مَرْدُودٍ. And they are going to receive a punishment that cannot be turned away. وَلَمَّا جَاءَتْ رُسُلُنَا لُوطًا. And when our messengers came to Lut, سِيءَ بِهِمْ وَضَاقَ بِهِمْ ذَرْعًا. He was distressed with their presence and felt discomforted for them. Well, قَالَ هَذَا يَوْمٌ عَصِيبٌ. And he said, this is a trying day. So not only the homosexuality is just one element of what the people of Lut did. That they did that for sure, but they targeted with that any new people that would come around. And Lut alayhi salam is frantically trying to protect those travelers. It's like they've come in a the anyone passing by Sodom and Gomorrah, they're like sitting ducks. That anyone can victimize them and make them do what they wouldn't want to do. And so Lut alayhi salam sees angels came in the form of handsome young men, and he is distressed, like this is gonna be a tough day. Him trying to protect them, them not understanding, and then the people trying to get at them, and Lut alayhi salam trying to reason with them. He's done this before. And so when he sees them, he doesn't know that they're angels yet. He's distressed. وَجَاءَهُ قَوْمُهُ يُهْرَعُونَ إِلَيْهِ. And the people come rushing towards him. وَمِن قَبْلُ كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ السَّيِّئَاتِ. And they were long addicted to this evil practice. As far as they're concerned, their eyes are bobbling now. They're like drooling at the sight of these young men. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ هَؤُلَاءِ بَنَاتِي. Lut alayhi salam again takes it up with them. My people, my daughters. Here are my daughters. So either he's talking about his own daughters or the daughters of his nation. On something of Lut alayhi salam being the only one there for them, to look after them, to regard them, to take care of them. But of course, they're all just there. And he's like, come on, let's end this. Let's see reason. Let's do this right. وَأَنَّ أَطْهَرُ لَكُمْ. They're purer for you. They're more appropriate for you. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُخْزُونِي فِي ضَيْفِي. So have the taqwa of Allah. Do not humiliate me regarding my guests. أَلَيْسَ مِنْكُمْ رَجُلٌ رَشِيدٌ. Is there not a single upright man among you? قَالُوا لَقَدْ عَلِمْتَ. They responded, you already know. مَا لَنَا فِي بَنَاتِكَ مِنْ حَقٍّ. We have nothing to do with your daughters. We don't want to have anything to do with your daughters. وَإِنَّكَ لَتَعْلَمُ مَا نُرِيدُ. And you know exactly what we want. Allah, he said, لَوْ أَنَّ لِي بِكُمْ قُوَّةً. Lut alayhi salam said, only if I had some power against you. Again, for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum to be able to identify with the weakness of Lut alayhi salam in front of his people. أَوْ أَوِي إِلَى رُكُنٍ شَدِيدٍ. Or if I could take a refuge, some refuge in some strong fortress where I could just hide away, protect myself, my people, my daughters, these guests. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, may Allah have mercy on Lut. He was already in a strong fortress. The conviction, the iman that he had, that strong fortress for him. قَالُوا يَا لُوطُ إِنَّا رُسُولُ رَبِّكَ. At this point, the angels speak up that, Ya Lut, we are messengers of your Rabb. لَن يَصِلُوا إِلَيْكَ. They are never going to be able to reach you. These people are not going to be able to harm you. فَأَسْرِ بِأَهْلِكَ بِقِطْعٍ مِّنَ اللَّيْلِ. So move with your family in a part of a night. وَلَا يَلْتَفِتْ مِنْكُمْ أَحَدٌ, and do not even look back. You don't even want to see from a distance what's becoming of this town. Just the sight is going to be traumatic. Don't look back. Keep going, keep walking away. إِلَّا امْرَأَتَكَ, except your wife. إِنَّهُ مُصِيبُهَا مَا أَصَابَهُمْ. She is going to be afflicted with whatever strikes them. So she was party to the crime. She was in on it with them, facilitating them, however she was facilitating them, and she has nothing to do with you. Inna maw'idahum as-subh, and for sure their time, their scheduled time, they have an appointment for the punishment. It is in the morning. Alaysa as-subhu biqarib, and isn't the morning very close? فَلَمَّا جَاءَ أَمْرُنَا, and so when our judgment came, when the amr came, جَعَلْنَا عَالِيَهَا سَافِلَهَا, we turned the town upside down. وَأَمْطَرْنَا عَلَيْهَا حِجَارَةً مِّن سِجِّيلٍ مَّنْضُودٍ, and we showered them with layered hard clay, مُسَوَّمَةً عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ, marked with your Rabb. Your Rabb personally marked each stone with who it was going to strike. وَمَا هِيَ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ بِبَعِيدٍ, and it is not far from the Zalimin. So, two ways of reading this. That this people of Makkah, this fate, this punishment of Allah is not far away from them. Or generally, Zalimin, people who insist upon this dhulm, to meet a similar end, that's not far away from them. لَيْسَ الصُّبْحُ بِقَرِيبٍ. Or in terms of distance, the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, they're not that far away from here. Just go and see what became of those people. Were they wiped out or not? Do you not have adequate evidence that these cities did in fact experience a complete wiping out? Again, something that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could not have access to. As far as some of those nations or those people, the ruins were clear to see, but not for all. وَإِلَى مَدْيَنَ أَخَاهُمْ شُعَيْبًا, and to the dwellers of Madian, their brother Shu'aib was sent. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ, he said, my people, worship Allah. مَا لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ, you have no God except Him. وَلَا تَنْقُصُوا الْمِكْيَالَ وَالْمِيزَانَ, and do not deliver short measure. Do not cheat people when you weigh the goods in your transactions, in your business dealings. إِنِّي أَرَاكُمْ بِخَيْرٍ, I see that you're already well off. You're already rich people, wealthy people, yet you feel this need to cheat. وَإِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ مُحِيطٍ, and I fear for you the punishment of an all-encompassing day. وَيَا قَوْمِ أَوْفُوا الْمِكْيَالَ وَالْمِيزَانَ بِالْقِسْطِ, my people, deliver full measure and weigh fairly. وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ, do not deprive people of their due. وَلَا تَعْثَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ مُفْسِدِينَ, and do not spread mischief in the land, corrupting it. بَقِيَّةُ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, profit that is given by Allah, that which is fair, that's the baqiyatullah. It is a profit of Allah that Allah is giving you. That is better for you, in kuntum mu'minin, if you would be believers. Again, to understand wealth with this perspective that there's limitations, there is an ethical code that your practices are bound by, and that once observed, what you earn therefrom is baqiyatullah. It is something that Allah is specifically giving you. And to trust Him is to remain content with what you earned through halal, through observing those ethics, those morals in your business practices. That's what is being encouraged. Relying upon cheating, when it becomes so much of a consistent practice, that the understanding by default is if we don't cheat, we're going to lose. We're going to lose money. We're going to become poor. That's tawakkul on the cheated amount. As far as halal means are concerned, pursuing them, working for them, that falls within the parameters of tawakkul on Allah. Baqiyatullahi khayrun lakum in kuntum mu'minin, if you would be believers. وَمَا أَنَا عَلَيْكُمْ بِحَفِيظ, and I am not a protector over you. قالوا يا شعيب, they said, شعيب صلاتك تأمرك أن نترك ما يعبد آباؤنا, does your prayer command you that we give up worshipping what our fathers used to worship? I mean, come on. We have some sort of prayer going on. We have worship and all of that stuff. But that worship is very conveniently, it has nothing to do with our business. Our God stays in the temple. What the hell is this with you bringing your God and having him interfere in our economic transactions? We want to do whatever we want to do. Who the hell are you? Who the hell is your God? You want to worship him, but bringing him into our economic dealings, that we're not going to stand for. And we've seen throughout, we said this before, worth saying it again, before Ibrahim alayhi salam, human society has not developed this interdependence to the level that it did develop by the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And so with Nuh alayhi salam, with Hud alayhi salam, with Salih alayhi salam, it is not necessary to go beyond the message of Tawheed, simple Risala, simple Akhirah. But with Lut alayhi salam, with Shu'aib alayhi salam, and then with Musa alayhi salam, it is necessary that the message of Tawheed is complemented with the extension. It is part of Tawheed to mention the social implications thereof, the economic implications thereof, the political implications thereof. So, is your prayer commanding us to stop worshiping what our fathers used to worship? Or not to do with our wealth as we please? This is the absolute authority that we have over what we do and how we practice business. Keep God out of this. If you really are forbearing, if you have tolerance, and you are a rightly guided person, they're now invoking morality to ensure that Shuaib alayhi salam stays out of their business. They're invoking tradition. If you really are Halim, if you really are a good person, rightly guided person, then you should know better. Don't interfere with our business. Don't interfere with our traditional religion. He said, my people, have you considered in kuntu ala bayyinatin min rabbi, if I am on a clear proof from my Rabb? What is the difference between you and me? Bayyina. Yet what I'm bringing is clear proof. And what you're calling on or what you're invoking is you don't have that. You don't have that standard. You don't have truth backing you up. In kuntu ala bayyinatin min rabbi. It's not my claim versus yours. It's my claim backed up by my evidence that I bring that you can see as evidence as well. And typically we don't see it here, but we see with other prophets, it is an evidence that people from then can testify to. That yes, this cannot have been him. It has to have come from Allah. Right? We saw this most clearly with Musa alayhi salam. قال يا قوم رأيتم إن كنت على بينة من ربي. I am on clear proof from my Rabb. ورزقني منه رزقا حسنا. And he has blessed me with a beautiful provision from himself. وما أريد أن أخالفكم إلى ما أنهاكم عنه. And I do not intend to do in my opposition to you, which I stop you from doing. I don't want that my reaction towards you is such that I cross boundaries. That I find a justification doing what you're doing. No, I'm going to maintain my responsibility before Allah. In uridu illa al-islah ma istata'at. I desire nothing except reformation to the best of my ability. Wa ma tawfiqi illa billah. And my success is not but from Allah. Alayhi tawakkaltu. On him alone I have relied. Wa ilayhi unib. And to him I turn to for everything. Wa ya qawman, my people, la yajrimannakum shiqaqi. Do not let your dissension from me force you. أن يصيبكم مثل ما أصاب, that there befalls you whatever befell the people before, قوم نوح أو قوم هود أو قوم صالح, people of Nuh, Hud and Saleh. وما قوم لوط منكم ببعيد, and the people of Lut are not far away from you, either in time nor in space in terms of distance. Why do you're again, Shuaib alayhi salam coming clean with them. First, he said, I don't want that in reaction to how you're treating me, I start resorting to the kind of practices you're resorting to get back at you, to justify myself against you, or whatever. I want to stand clear of there. And also, your hatred towards me, be that in its own place. Don't let that hatred lead for your rebellion such that you call or you justify the adhab of Allah upon you like the previous people did. وَاسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ, and seek forgiveness from your Rabb. ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ, and turn to Him in repentance. إِنَّ رَبِّي رَحِيمٌ وَدُودٌ, for sure my Rabb is merciful and loving. قَالُوا يَا شُعَيْبُ مَا نَفْقَهُ كَثِيرًا مِمَّا نَقُولُ. They said, Shuaib, we don't understand. We don't understand what you're talking about. Just most of what you say is way over our head. وَإِنَّا لَنَرَاكَ فِينَا ضَعِيفًا. What we do see is that you're weak. We see you have no power. You are weak. وَلَوْلَا رَهْتُكَ, had it not been for your family. Again, something Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam can relate with. Had it not been for your family, لَرَجَمْنَاكَ, we would have stoned you. وَمَا أَنْتَ عَلَيْنَا بِعَزِيزٍ, and you have no strength against us. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ أَرَهْتِي أَعَزُّ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ. He said, my people, my family is more powerful to you. It means more to you. It's more. It is of more value than Allah. وَاتَّخَذْتُمُوهُ وَرَاءَكُمْ ظِهْرِيًّا. You've put Him behind you, neglected, ignored. إِنَّ رَبِّي بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ مُحِيطٌ. My Rabb encompasses all of what you do. وَيَا قَوْمِ اعْمَلُوا عَلَى مَكَانَتِكُمْ إِنِّي أَعْمَلُ. So my people, do whatever you want to do. Whatever you can do in your place. And I'll do what I have to do. سوف تعلمون من يأتيه عذاب يخزي. And we will soon know who is going to be afflicted with the humiliating punishment. وَمَنْ هُوَ كَاذِبٌ, and who is a liar. وَارْتَقِبُوا, and watch. إِنِّي مَعَكُمْ رَقِيبٌ, I will be watching with you. وَلَمَّا جَاءَ أَمْرُنَا, and so when our command came, نَجَّيْنَا شُعَيْبًا وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ, we saved Shu'aib and those who believed with him. بِرَحْمَةٍ مِنَّا, out of our mercy. وَأَخَذَتِ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا الصَّيْحَةُ, and the awful sound seized those who did dhulm. فَأَصْبَحُوا فِي دِيَارِهِمْ جَاثِمِينَ, and so they were upside down in their houses, dead. كَأَن لَّمْ يَغْنَوْا فِيهَا, as if they never lived there. أَلَا بُعْدًا لِمَدْيَنَ كَمَا بَعِدَتْ ثَمُودَ. So for sure, away with these people of Madian, just like the people of Thamud were done away with. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا وَسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ, and so we sent Musa with our signs and a clear authority, إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ وَمَلَئِهِ, to Fir'aun and his chiefs, فَاتَّبَعُوا أَمْرَ فِرْعَوْنَ, but they followed the command of Fir'aun. وَمَا أَمْرُ فِرْعَوْنَ بِرَشِيدٍ, and the command of Fir'aun was not right, was not rightly guided. يَقْدُمُ قَوْمَهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, he will precede his people on the day of judgment. He will be leading them. فَأَوْرَدَهُمُ النَّارِ, and will lead them straight into the fire. وَبِئْسَ الْوِرْدُ الْمَوْرُودُ, and how despicable is the place to which they are led. وَأُتْبِعُوا فِي هَذِهِ اللَّعْنَةِ, they were followed by a curse in this life. وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, as well as on the day of judgment. بِئْسَ الرِّفْدُ الْمَرْفُودُ, and how despicable is the gift that is gifted. ذَلِكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الْقُرَىٰ, this is from the news of the towns. نَقُصُّهُ عَلَيْكَ, which we relate to you. مِنْهَا قَائِمٌ وَحَصِيدٌ, some of them still stand, but others are reaped away, just like harvested fields, completely taken down. Some have remains that you can see. وَمَا ظَلَمْنَاهُمْ, we did not do wrong to them. وَلَكِنْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ, rather they wronged themselves. They had the complete freedom to choose which course of action to take. They chose and they reaped the consequences. They cannot blame this on fate. They cannot scapegoat God, that it was Him, He made us do it. No, they had freedom. They could have chosen otherwise, and they did not. And so they wronged themselves. فَمَا أَغْنَتْ عَنْهُمْ آلِهَتِهُمُ الَّتِي يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مِن شَيْءٍ. And their gods that they used to call on besides Allah, they were of no benefit to them at all. لِمَّا جَاءَ أَمْرُ رَبِّكَ. Once the amr of your Rabb had come, وَمَا زَادُوهُمْ غَيْرَ تَتْبِيبٍ. And they added nothing to them except ruin. وَكَذَلِكَ أَخْذُ رَبِّكَ إِذَا أَخَذَ الْقُرَى. And thus is the seizing of your Rabb whenever he seizes the towns, whenever he takes them, takes hold of them, takes them to task, takes them in punishment. وَهِيَ ظَالِمَةٌ. While its dwellers are engaged in dhulm, injustice. إِنَّ أَخْذَهُ أَلِيمٌ شَدِيدٌ. And for sure, his seizing is incredibly severe and painful. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَةٌ. And for sure, and that is an ayah, is a sign. لِمَنْ خَافَ عَذَابَ الْآخِرَةِ. For anyone who fears the punishment of the hereafter. This is not just something that befalls nations. This is something that individuals need to be very wary of. Because there are times when you feel there is an age and there is a state of health and resource and wealth that you feel very strong in. So don't think that as individuals, you're going to point to or follow in the legacy of the nations who earned the adab of Allah and you taste the same poison and they died from it, but you're not going to. No. There is something to be afraid of. There is something to be afraid of in all of these stories for everyone. إن في ذلك لآية لمن خاف عذاب الآخرة ذلك يوم. That is a day مجموع له الناس, on which humanity will be assembled. وذلك يوم مشهود. And that is the day to be witnessed. That this wiping out of nations in response to rejecting the prophets is a sign of the day of judgment itself. It is a sign of the sunnah of Allah that He punishes. It's not a joke. It's not just empty threats. He carried it out before, He will carry it out again. وَمَا نُؤَخِّرُهُ. And we do not delay it. إِلَّا لِأَجَلٍ مَعْدُودٍ. Except a very limited term. Except they have a very limited term. يَوْمَ يَأْتِي لَا تَكَلَّمُ نَفْسٌ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ. The day it comes, no individual will dare to speak without His permission. فَمِنْهُمْ شَقِيٌّ وَسَعِيدٌ. And from them will be the wretched. And from them will be those who attain felicity, happiness. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ شَقُوا فَفِي النَّارِ. So for the wretched ones, they're going to be in the fire. لَهُمْ فِيهَا زَفِيرٌ وَشَهِيقٌ. For them in there are sighs and sobs. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا مَا دَامَتِ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ. Living in it as long as the heavens and the earth last. إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ رَبُّكَ. Except whatever your Rabb wills. إِنَّ رَبَّكَ فَعَّالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. And your Rabb does whatever He wants. وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ سُعِدُوا فَفِي الْجَنَّةِ. As for those who are felicitous, who are happy, they're going to be in paradise. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا مَا دَامَتِ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ. To live in it as long as the heavens and the earth continue to exist. إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ رَبُّكَ. Except what your Rabb wants. عطاء غير مجذوذ. As a favor not to be taken away. فلا تك في مرية مما يعبد هؤلاء. So do not be in any doubt about the people, about what these people are worshipping. ما يعبدون إلا كما يعبد آباؤهم من قبل. They worship what their fathers used to worship. وإنا لموفوهم نصيبهم غير منقوص. And we are going to pay them their due undiminished. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا مُوسَى الْكِتَابَ. And we did give Musa the book. فَاخْتُلِفَ فِيهِ. But it came under disagreement. وَلَوْلَا كَلِمَةٌ سَبَقَتْ مِنْ رَبِّكَ. And had it not been for a word already issued by your Rabb, لَقُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ. He would have judged between them. Ikhtilaf happens. If Allah wants, He can resolve that ikhtilaf. But no, He allows for that ikhtilaf to prevail. Allah values human freedom. This is something that you have to live with, resolve on your own. Otherwise, it will be resolved on the day of judgment. وَإِنَّهُمْ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مُرِيبٍ. And definitely they are in suspicious doubt about it. So once something comes in under ikhtilaf, there are multiple varying interpretations and opinions on a single fact, on a single ayah, whether in scripture or in the world of nature, people start becoming doubtful of it. Is there any truth to it at all? Absolute certainty and absolute doubt. They're they are very, very convenient positions to take. Either way, inaction, not having to do anything, seems justified. Not having to take responsibility, not having to think, most importantly, seems justified. When there is belligerent certainty, and you keep going, keep going, keep going, not having to, not bothering to reflect if there's any change in action that is necessary, if there's any change in course that has become necessary. You're just reflexively, reactively, habitually going on and on and on and on and on and on, refusing to think, change, act better or differently in any way. And then doubt. There's too much ikhtilaf. There's too many differences. We can't know. We can't know at all. We can't know anything. Ooh. Okay, awesome. Then we got to do nothing. You have to do something, of course. You do what is pleasurable. You do what brings money. There are all kinds of ikhtilaf are they're transcended. All kinds of ikhtilaf are transcended when it comes to pleasure, power, or wealth. You live on that reflexive mode. But real action that follows thinking through the ikhtilaf and then believing in one or the other, and then taking that up as a course of action, open to what results you get to see if acting differently is warranted, is justified, and then going on with that process. No, that's too much trouble. It's too long. I want the twee and the fruit from the twee, and the fruit from the twee should make me invincible and eternal and forever like an angel. What I want. That is very cute, but grow up. The time for that is gone. وَإِنَّهُمْ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مُرِيبٍ. And they're in a suspicious doubt about it, about the book that they had, and then about the Quran itself, about scripture itself. وَإِنَّ كُلَّ لَمَّا لَيُوَفِّيَنَّهُمْ رَبُّكَ أَعْمَالًا. And for sure, your Rabb will fully compensate them for all their deeds. إِنَّهُ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرٌ. He is definitely aware of all that they do. فَاسْتَقِمْ كَمَا أُمِرْتَ وَمَنْ تَابَ مَعَكَ. So stand firm as you're commanded, along with those who have repented with you. وَلَا تَطْغَوْا. And do not cross limits. إِنَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. He is definitely watching all that you do. وَلَا تَرْكَنُوا إِلَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا. And do not be inclined towards those who are unjust. فَتَمَسَّكُمُ النَّارُ. Lest the fire afflicts you. وَمَا لَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ مِنْ أَوْلِيَاءَ. And you find no protectors besides Allah. ثُمَّ لَا تُنصَرُونَ. And then you are not helped thereafter. وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَيِ النَّهَارِ وَزُلَفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. And establish prayer at the two ends of the day and the starting hours of the night. إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ. For sure, lots of good, beautiful actions, they do away with evil actions. Again, this is the Sahaba and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, this small community of believers being prepared for migration, being prepared to take on these rejectors of truth. They're being warned, you can't take your iman for granted. You can't take your action for granted. Hold on to salah at all of these different times during the day. Now that it has become formalized with the 5 prayers after the Mi'raj, the prayer, the command for prayer is now is now explained with the times of day being mentioned as well, right? So hold on to this attitude, the proclivity to lean towards the kuffar and their strength and their power and their threats and their wealth. It's very strong, given that the light at the end of the tunnel either is too far away, you can't see it at all. So hold on to this salah, hold on to your faith, hold on to these warnings that you're getting, these ayat that you're being shown from previous nations. and stand strong. إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ. Keep doing good. Keep doing good. What is going to become an impediment in what is going to be required of you later on, the sacrifices that you're going to be required to do, the sabr that you're going to be required to express, to live by, the greatest obstacle in that is going to be your own character, your own personalities. And within that, the sayyi'at, the blotches, the dark marks, they're going to make that all the more difficult. So the more good you build up on right now, the easier it will be when the going gets even tougher. إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ. So continue to do good, and the good will do away with the evil. The good has this capacity, has this divine quality of even turning the evil into something beautiful. ذَلِكَ ذِكْرَى لِلذَّاكِرِينَ. And that is a reminder for those who remember. That your sayyi'at, they can become your strengths, provided the hasanat are able to supplant them, not just supplant them, transmute them into something awesome. For so much that Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to do prior to Islam, it gave him an insight, it gave him an understanding. Khalid bin Walid radiallahu ta'ala anhu. الناس كالمعاد. Men are like minerals. Human beings are like minerals. خيارهم في الجاهلية خيارهم في النار. خيارهم في الجاهلية خيارهم في الإسلام. The best of them in Jahiliyyah will be the best in Islam. They bring those abilities with them. And especially what those abilities, the way they manifested themselves in Jahiliyyah, it gives them an insight. It gives them an understanding that others would not have. إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ سَيِّئَاتِ ذَلِكَ ذِكْرَى لِلذَّاكِرِينَ. وَاصْبِرْ, and continue to be perseverant. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And for sure, Allah does not allow the ajr, the reward of the people of excellence, to go to waste. فَلَوْلَا كَانَ مِنَ الْقُرُونِ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ أُولُو بَقِيَّةٍ. So why were there not in the generations before you those who had this endurance, this ability to discriminate, يَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْفَسَادِ فِي الْأَرْضِ, who could forbid the people from evil, from mischief on earth, إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِمَّنْ أَنْجَيْنَا مِنْهُمْ, except a few of those whom we saved from among them. وَاتَّبَعَ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مَا أُتْرِفُوا فِيهِ. But the wrongdoers pursued the affluence provided to them, وَكَانُوا مُجْرِمِينَ. And they were criminals. The affluent people doing all the wrong that they were doing, that's one problem. But then there's nobody to stop them. There's nobody to tell them anything. The affluent people need that within the society there are those who are letting them know, hang on, hold on to it, take it easy. You're crossing boundaries here. There needs to be something in the society that puts a check, because affluence tends to corrupt. It leads to all sorts of evil. And the affluent themselves are going to be too blind to them. They have to have this segment of the society that can put a check on it, rather than reinforcing it, rather than reassuring them, no, don't worry about it, keep going, as long as you give us a little bit of whatever charities you're going to give. وَاتَّبَعَ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مَا أُتْرِفُوا فِيهِ وَكَانُوا مُجْرِمِينَ وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ لِيُهْلِكَ الْقُرَىٰ بِظُلْمٍ. It is not possible that your Rabb destroys a city unjustly, وَأَهْلُهَا مُصْلِحُونَ, while the residents were still reformers. There was reform, there was change, there was improvement still going on. Allah would never destroy. It is only when that community is not a community, that group of people, that crowd of people is dead. They're dead people walking, deprived of all life. And all that persists in there is pure evil. وَأَهْلُهَا مُصْلِحُونَ وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَجَعَلَ النَّاسَ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. If your Rabb wanted, he would have made people a single community. One community, happy family of believers. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ. But they will not cease to differ. Ikhtilaf is going to continue. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ. Except those who receive the rahmah of your Rabb, the mercy of your Rabb. The rububiyyah of Allah being important, the Rabbuka, ka referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that being important, and then the grace of Allah. How all of these come together, how the rububiyyah of Allah, the special mercy of Allah on account of that rububiyyah, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, how he communicates to us through word and action and legacy, how these ikhtilafat are to be negotiated. How is it that you work your way through them, across them, without Allah intervening to tell you this is A and this is B and follow A and don't follow B? Ikhtilaf is inevitable. Ikhtilaf is inevitable. Your conviction of Iman, your determination to act and to do good will have to overcome the necessary challenge and obstacle of ikhtilaf. It is a test, it is a trial, it is something that you have to overcome. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَهُمْ. That is how Allah has created them. That is how human beings have been created, with this freedom of choice. And then with this freedom, we're going to make mistakes. Mistakes in interpretation, mistakes in how we look at things. It's not going to be the same way. And the more we are able to identify with the rububiyyah of Allah, we will be able to offer mutual correctives. That I am inclined towards making mistakes, but then being open to the idea of community, being open to other perspectives, will help me check my mistakes, and I can help you check yours. And all of us, coming from all of these different perspectives and areas of speciality, we rectify each other's proneness to error and come closer and closer towards truth. These, what is a problem is going to be istikbar, the arrogance of not letting anybody in, not letting anybody check you. وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَهُمْ. That's how we've created them. وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ. And the word of your Rabb is going to prove true. لَأَمْلَأَنَّ جَهَنَّمَ مِنَ الْجِنَّةِ وَالنَّاسِ أَجْمَعِينَ. Where Allah says, I will fill up the hellfire with jinns and human beings altogether. This word that he gave Shaitan. And he said, Ya Allah, I'm going to come at them. وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ. And that's how we relate to you from the news of the messengers. مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ. Through which we strengthen your heart. وَجَاءَكَ فِي هَذِهِ الْحَقِّ. And it carries the truth for you. وَمَوْعِظَةٌ وَذِكْرَى لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. As well as a heart-softening speech and a reminder for the believers. Now look at these ayat in the context of Rasulullah ﷺ saying, شَيِّبَتْنِي هُودٌ وَأَخَوَاتُهَا. Surah Hud and its sisters have turned my hair white. The concern, the impending doom for the Quraysh, for Rasulullah ﷺ's clan, for his tribe, for his people, how definitive that impending doom is now, it concerns him. And so when these ayat are being revealed to him and they're telling him, this is being revealed as a solace for you, to strengthen your heart, to keep you strong, and as a reminder for those who are believing with you. وَقُلْ لِلَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. And tell them, those who don't believe, اعْمَلُوا عَلَى مَكَانَتِكُمْ. Do whatever you can in your place. إِنَّا عَامِلُونَ. We will as well. وَانْتَظِرُوا. And wait. إِنَّا مُنْتَظِرُونَ. We are also waiting. وَلِلَّهِ غَيْبُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And to Allah belongs the unseen, everything unseen in the heavens and the earth. وَإِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُ الْأَمْرُ كُلُّهُ. And all matters will return to him alone. فَعْبُدْهُ. So worship him alone, just his ibadah. وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَيْهِ. And trust him. وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. And your Rabb is not unaware of what you do. وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا أَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَأَصْحَابِهِ أَجْمَعِينَ. So we begin with Surah Yusuf, inshallah, just about now. So for obvious reasons, this is one of my favorite surahs. My association with the surah goes back to the time, as I am told, when I was a fetus. And my mom used to recite this quite a lot, or pretty much all the time. This and Surah Maryam, which might explain some of my effeminate aspects. And other than that, yeah, I can just picture her in her nice Punjabi Arabic reciting Surah Yusuf. Um, so that's how far Surah Yusuf and I go. But for less shallower reasons as well, this is one of my favorite surahs, and I hope something of those deeper reasons can be communicated across the few sessions that we're going to be talking about this, inshallah. Right, so أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام را تلك آيات الكتاب المبين. These are the ayats of the clear book. Inna anzalnahu Qur'anan Arabiyya. So we have definitely sent it down as an Arabic Quran. And you will always hear this ayat whenever you are being encouraged to learn the language, to learn Arabic for Quranic comprehension, and rightfully so. It is the language of the Quran, and the more attuned you are to the language, the more well versed you are to the language, the more personally you're going to be able to relate with the ayat as best as possible. Fair enough. But then there's another phrase that follows the Quran in Arabiya, and that is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, so that you use your intellect. This Quran is being revealed to you so that you use your intellect. In an Arabic language, this Arabic Quran is being revealed to you, is being revealed so that you can use your intellect. How about that? A revelation that is coming down, wahi coming down, the most pristine, protected, refined form of human intuition, or human intuitive experience, rather, that you can possibly imagine. God speaking to human being in the highest, most eloquent, most personal way imaginable through wahi. And what is one of the functions of wahi? To pave the way for human intellect, to open the doors of using reason. And this is what makes the Quran so revolutionary. That typically, traditionally, resorting to scriptural sources or resorting to intuitive spiritual dimensions of reality or humanity or what have you was looked as an alternate to intellectual pursuits. It was looked as something that you are doing other than or even against intellectual pursuits. That the fallibility of reason and the incapacity of reason is being overcome, is being set aside, is being replaced with this all superior revelatory source. And so that is how scripture has been used. And unfortunately, that form of thinking was imposed, has been imposed, continues to be imposed on the Quran as well. To the point that I have heard with my own ears that whenever the Quran is talking about لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ or يَتَفَكَّرُونَ or يَتَدَبَّرُونَ, it is talking to the kuffar. It is talking to for them to use their intellect so that they can come to the understanding of Quran, and that's it. No more intellect after that. And I was like, what? I've heard it from very distinguished scholarly source, which is what makes it all the more tragic. That this insecurity this deep-seated insecurity that finds no other route other than to pitch the Quran against reason, against intellectual pursuits. It goes so far as to, I don't know what to make of it. I do, but لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. So this Quran has been revealed in Arabic. By all means, do what you can. Refine your understanding of the language, of Arabic. Get up close and personal with the Quran. But yeah, also see how it's paving the way for your intellectual development. How it paved the way for humanity's intellectual development. For the way humanity developed its intellectual resources on what the Muslim world gave to humanity, and then Muslim world went to sleep. Um, and it continues to be an incredible contribution. And now that continues to be developed over the past couple of centuries. We got nothing to do with it. We don't want to have anything to do with it. We have all the more reason to oppose it since it's no longer ours. But to see that this endorsement of the Quran and how much of a light in post-modernity this promises to be. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. So we have sent this down, this Arabic Quran, so that you may use, all of you, it's addressing us in the plural, so that you use your intellect. نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ. We relate to you the most beautiful story. The beautiful story of the beautiful Yousuf, coming at one of the most tragic times for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam lost Abu Talib, which means it's only a matter of time before the Quraysh start bidding on the head of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How much should we give for whoever brings him dead or alive? It eventually happened, but the door to that was opened with the passing away of Abu Talib. The Abu Talib who was willing to go through that boycott, despite not being Muslim himself, but standing strong, supporting Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He went with his entire clan into that valley in which they were not allowed access to basic needs to survive. That Abu Talib was gone. That Abu Talib, that support was gone. Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, the emotional support that she was, and much more than emotional. From day one, we've seen how her validating Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how in a way she believed in him when he didn't believe in himself, when he felt that he's a poet or a possessed, this is some demonic experience. She told him no. And she verified for him in so many different ways that he's on the right track. She passes away. Na'amul Huzun, the year of grief, ensues for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he's still struggling to come to terms with how can my own clan, my own people, my own brothers be so opposed to me? How can they have so much animosity, so much enmity? He's still, and then the best support that he had in human form, he loses. The year that he does not smile, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's when Allah tells him this story. So this story comes in response to those events in Sirah, لِنُثَبِّتَ بِهِ فُعَادَكَ. One of the purposes of the Quran, one of the functions of the Quran for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is to respond to real-time events as they're happening. And it comes as a response to a question that uh, the Jewish people settled in Yathrib have asked. The Quraysh, in their exasperation, realizing that they know nothing of scripture or revelation or what have you, have resorted to the Jewish tribes and said, "Can you help us out here? This dude claims to be a prophet. We don't know what he's at. We don't know what he's on, but we need something. So why don't you tell us something that we can stump him with? Some questions, perhaps?" And so they asked a few questions. Three of them are to be answered in Surah Kahf and Surah Bani Israel. One of them is answered here in Surah Yusuf. So they're like, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was based around the Holy Land, Jerusalem and whereabouts. How in the world did Yusuf alayhi salam and his brothers, how did they end up in Egypt? Why is the Bani Israel in Fir'aun's captivity in Egypt, whereas Yaqub alayhi salam from Ishaq alayhi salam, they were settled in and around Jerusalem. So how did all of them just end up in this place in Egypt? When we talk about Fir'aun, we talk about Musa, that's happening in another part of the world. So how did that come about? So this story answers that question, and it responds to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's need in that time as well. بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن, just like we revealed to you this Quran, وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين, and before this you were of those who did not know, who were unaware. إذ قال يوسف لأبيه, when Yusuf said to his father, يا أبت إني رأيت, Dad, I'm pretty sure I saw this dream. أحد عشر كوكبا والشمس والقمر. I see 11 stars, the sun and the moon. رأيتهم لي ساجدين. I see that they're doing sajda before me. قال يا بني لا نقصص رؤياك على إخوتك. So Yaqub alayhi salam responded, my dear son, don't tell this dream to your brothers. فَيَكِيدُوا لَكَ كَيْدًا. They will contrive a plan against you. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لِلْإِنسَانِ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. And for sure, shaitan is an open enemy of human beings. As awesome as this dream is, as wonderful as it is, what it symbolizes is something that your brothers are not going to be, oh my God, welcoming you with open arms about. It's going to trigger inside of them that hatred, that envy, that demonic state, and we don't know what follows from there. وَكَذَلِكَ يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ. And thus will you, and then he goes on to talk about, first the warning comes in, and then he talks about how awesome the dream is. This is how your Rabb will choose you. وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ. And he will teach you the interpretation. It's been looked at in both ways, interpretation of dreams and also a deeper understanding of affairs, of matters, of problems. وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ. And he will perfect his favor upon you, وَعَلَى آلِ يَعْقُوبَ, as well as the family of Ya'qub. كَمَا أَتَمَّهَا عَلَى أَبَوَيْكَ مِنْ قَبْلِ. Just like he perfected it before you on your grandfathers, Ibrahim wa Ishaq, Ibrahim and Ishaq. Inna rabbaka alimun hakim. And for sure, your Rabb is knowing and wise. If he is making this choice in your favor, choosing you thus as somebody who's going to have this depth, this knowledge, this ability, this is a continuation of that prophetic lineage, of that prophetic legacy that he chose Yaqub alayhi salam, he chose Ishaq alayhi salam, and he chose Ibrahim alayhi salam. The most noble lineage, the lineage of Yusuf alayhi salam, where his father, grandfather, and great-grandfather are all prophets. لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي يُوسُفَ وَإِخْوَتِهِ. And for sure in the story of Yusuf in his brothers, there are آيَاتٌ لِلسَّائِلِينَ, signs for those asking. And so those asking include the Jewish people. Those asking include the people of Quraysh because they got that question from the Jewish people. And then those asking in a very different way includes Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he's also asking for help in his state of need in the Amul Huzn. إذ قالوا, when they said, La Yusufu wa akhuhu ahabbu ila abina minna. Yusuf and his brothers are more beloved to our father than we are. So Yusuf and Binyamin are the two sons from one mother, and the rest of them, the ones talking to each other right now, they're brothers from another mother. And the brothers from another mother look towards Yusuf and Binyamin, who are younger, not very fondly. When they look at their father showing this affection towards them, and they look at it as, okay, that's, they're, our father's lost it. He's giving preference to them over us. وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ, even though we are a strong group. So why should our father favor us? Because we're stronger, there's more of us, we're more powerful, we're more worthy of his love. His love should conform to our standards. And our standards are based entirely on this understanding of strength and power. So what's wrong with him that he wouldn't choose us? Again, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been constantly tortured by the Quraysh with a similar narrative, with a similar logic. How in the world are you chosen by God? How in the world are you the messenger, the prophet? The Qaryatayn Azim, the two great cities, Taif and Makkah, the great leaders in those cities, the powerful leaders, the wealth that they have, the influence that they have, the entourage that they have, and God chose you? Clearly something's wrong there. So this preference that is being given to Yusuf alayhi salam by his father, this preference that is being given to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam by Allah, and the brothers can't take it. They're like, how this doesn't make sense. He should conform to our standards. How dare he? Inna abana lafi dalalim mubin. Our father's lost it. He's gone cuckoo. He's lost his way. Uqtulu Yusuf. Kill Yusuf. I just get rid of him. Again, they're so fixated. Their anger with respect to, and Yusuf alayhi salam did not tell them the dream. The father told him not to, he didn't. Yet they see there's something about him. There's something about him that we don't have. But whatever it is that we have, that is the real thing to have. And so on the basis of that standard, the misguidance of our father in giving him preference, we have to set that straight. We have to set it right, even if it means getting rid of him altogether. What you're going to do? You have to do it for the truth. And the truth is that we are stronger and our father is better off directing his attention towards us. So let's save him the trouble. Uqtulu Yusuf. Let's kill him. Awitrahuhu arban, or just throw him away in some other land. Yakhlu lakum wajhu abikum. Your father's attention will be all yours. Your father's love, affection, attention, all of it. And again, what are they doing it for? Their father's the prophet. Their father is, his affection means more than just the affection of a father. It is the affection and the privilege of being close to or closer to a prophet. It is a spiritual legacy as well that they yearn. وَتَكُونُوا مِنْ بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. And after that, you can become righteous people. Then you can do tawbah. قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ. One of them said, and this is reportedly the eldest of the brothers, the relatively most sane, most reasonable among them. لَا تَقْتُلُوا يُوسُف. Do not kill Yusuf. وَأَلْقُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ. Rather, throw him in a dark well. So they've already entertained the possibility of the worst. Now doing something less than the worst is almost like doing Yusuf a favor. See, we didn't kill you. We could have. but we didn't. See how generous we are? لا تقتلوا يوسف وألقوه في غيابة الجب يلتقطه بعض السيارة. So a passing by caravan can pick him up. In kuntum fa'ilin. Now that you're going to do something. You've already resolved to do something. If there is something that you got to do, then let's just do this. He's not on board entirely, but he's not off board either. قالوا يا أبانا. So they asked their father, Dad, ما لك لا تأمنا على يوسف? What's wrong? Why don't you trust us with Yusuf? وإنا له لناصحون. And we have his best interest at heart. We love him so much. أرسله معنا غدا يرتع ويلعب. Send him with us tomorrow to let him enjoy himself and play. And you can well imagine that they do think that they have his best interest at heart. See, all this pampering, all this love and attention, that's not good for him. It's gonna spoil him. Let's roughen him up, toughen him up. He needs to be stronger too. Get rid of him altogether. It'll teach him life lessons. We have his best interest at heart. أرسله معنا غدا يرتع ويلعب. So that send him with us tomorrow. He'll enjoy, he'll play. وإنا له لحافظون. We will take very good care of him. We'll protect him. قال إني ليحزنني أن تذهبوا به. Yaqub alayhi salam said, I feel grieved, I feel sad that you should take him with you. وأخاف أن يأكله الذئب. And I fear that a wolf might eat him up. Yaqub alayhi salam's onto their game somewhat. He has something of an idea. They're up to no good. And so he's expressing his fears. He's letting them know, وَأَنْتُمْ عَنْهُ غَافِلُونَ. While you're not paying attention to him. قالوا, they said, لَإِنْ أَكَلَهُ الذِّئْبُ وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ. If a wolf eats him, we're this strong group, إِنَّا إِذَا لَخَاسِرُونَ. Then for sure we're a bunch of losers. If that ends up happening, what does that say of us? فَلَمَّا ذَهَبُوا بِهِ. So when they finally took him with them, وَأَجْمَعُوا. And they had a consensus, أَنْ يَجْعَلُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ. That they will place him in a dark well. And well, not like the kind of wells we know, in the sense like there's those small dark holes in the, you pull out a pail of water. Wells used to be relatively more spacious or bigger. So there would be adequate place to even sit inside of them. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ. And it was at this point that we revealed, but it's still a well. It's still dark. It's still dingy. It's still not a kind of place you want to be in. It's deep, deep down underground, and there's nobody there. And for a little boy who was, how old could he have been? It's incredibly frightening. And we revealed to him at that time, and Allah comes to his aid, even that at that time as a child. لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ هَذَا. You will remind them of this act of theirs. So there's already this vengefulness which is being sparked within Yusuf alayhi salam, which is being validated. That don't worry. And he's being given this, and of course there's this fear for his life as well. He's being told, don't worry about it. We got you. We're going to take care of you. We're going to take such good care of you that you're going to be in a position to tell them about what they've done, about the gravity of what they've done. وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And they don't understand. وَجَاءُوا أَبَاهُمْ عِشَاءً يَبْكُونَ. Late in the evening, they returned to their father, crying. قالوا, they said, يَا أَبَانَا, our dad, إِنَّا ذَهَبْنَا نَسْتَبِقْ. We went off racing with one another. وَتَرَكْنَا يُوسُفَ عِنْدَ مَتَاعِنَا. And we left Yusuf with our belongings, all our stuff. فَأَكَلَهُ الذِّئْبُ. And a wolf ate him. وَمَا أَنْتَ بِمُؤْمِنٍ لَنَا. And you will not believe us. وَلَوْ كُنَّا صَادِقِينَ. Even though we're true, you always suspected us. وَجَاءُوا عَلَى قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ. And they came with his shirt, stained with false blood. This was their evidence, their proof. قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. He said, no. You have allowed yourselves, your nafs, has allowed something so huge to become something so easy. You have driven yourself, this heinous act that you've done. How were you how were you able to justify it to yourself? Somehow your nafs has allowed you to do that. What was it all done in the name of love of the Father, love of the Prophet, love of the Father, love of the Prophet? These very incredibly important values. Why wouldn't you do something for the love of your father? Why wouldn't you do something for the love of a prophet? How far it has taken you that these disguises, this infatuation with your own love of your father or the prophet is such that it has blinded you into committing something justified for you in doing something so heinous, so criminal. قال بل سولت لكم أنفسكم أمرا فالصبر جميل. Patience is most fitting. He doesn't trust them. He doesn't believe them. He doesn't buy it. He said, but sabr is the best way forward. Wallahu al-musta'anu ala ma tasifun. Allah is the best one worthy of seeking help from against what you describe. وَجَاءَتْ سَيَّارَةٌ. And there came a caravan. فَأَرْسَلُوا وَارِدَهُمْ. And they sent their water drawer, the one who's going to bring out water. فَأَدْلَى دَلْوَ. Who let his bucket down into the well. قَالَ يَا بُشْرَى هَذَا غُلَامٌ. And he shouted, good news! Look, I found a young boy. And what does that mean? That means money. We're going to sell him as a slave. وَأَسَرُّوهُ بِضَاعَةً. And they hid him. وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ. But Allah knew what they were doing. So two opinions, either the people in the caravan who have found Yusuf alayhi salam, they immediately hide him so they, their owners or their claimants or their family just doesn't find out. So they get, he's practically being kidnapped. Or it is said that the brothers came in and they're like, he's ours, you want him? وَشَرَوْهُ بِثَمَنٍ بَخْسٍ دَرَاهِمَ مَعْدُودَةٍ. And they sold him out for a petty price of a few dirham, few darahim, like a fourth of a dinar, like a quarter. وَكَانُوا فِيهِ مِنَ الزَّاهِدِينَ. And concerning him, they felt very zahid, they felt very righteous. Look, we did not overcharge. We were so nice. We did not overcharge. We actually gave him out for a huge discount. So whether it's the kidnappers or whether it's the brothers who have also practically kidnapped their brother and sold him away, their guilt for the crime that they've committed, the kidnapping itself, the treachery against their father, against their brother, how are they dispelling that guilt? We sold him off for such little money. We didn't overcharge. The zuhud, the simplicity, the big discount that we gave. See, we're not greedy people. We don't do it for the money. Alhamdulillah, mashallah, tabarakallah. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَاهُ مِنْ مِصْرَ لِامْرَأَتِهِ. And the Egyptian who bought him said to his wife, أَكْرِمِي مَثْوَاهُ. Make his stay honorable. عَسَىٰ أَن يَنْفَعَنَا. He may prove very useful to us. So again, this Aziz, this dignitary in Egypt, he has a position in the court of the king. He has his position in the city. He's not just anybody. He sees something in Yusuf alayhi salam. And he's generally seems to be a nice person. So he's telling his wife, make his stay honorable. He may be very useful for us. أَوْ نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا. We may even adopt him as a son. They did not seem to have a son. None appears in the story, and there have been interpretations that say they could not have a son, and that the Aziz himself may have been impotent. And that may be one of the reasons why his wife did what she did, because her husband wasn't able to. وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And that is how we established Yusuf in the land. وَلِنُعَلِّمَهُ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ, so as to be able to teach him the interpretation of events. The brothers plotted, but then Allah planned. And the plan of Allah was such that the animosity and the enmity of the brothers, it is, even Khayd is brought out from something so traumatic as that, something so evil as that, that now through this, Yusuf alayhi salam is going to be able to learn what he would not have been able to learn, even though he would have been brought up in the household of a prophet. That what the prophet could give him, in the sense of a prophetic knowledge, that's all fine and dandy and great and awesome. But the ta'wil al-ahadith that he is going to learn being raised in the house of a government official, there's going to be dignitaries coming and going, conversations that he's going to be listening in on, affairs of the state, politics and economy and whatnot, that he's going to be learning. And for that ta'aleem, this sort of a setup was ideal. Wallahu ghalibun ala amrihi. Allah was in full control over his affair. The amr, the meaningfulness of Yusuf's life, of Allah's purpose for him. Allah was in full control. That even in that very traumatic, very difficult situation of unimaginable suffering for a child, there is so much good that can come out. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But most people don't know. Most people see the cross section of what is going on. And if you look at it in cross section without the full picture, what's hidden inside of it as possibility, as potential for what it holds for the future, then yeah, it's you can't make sense of it. So much pain, so much difficulty, so much suffering for a child. وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ. And when he reached his maturity, آتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا. We granted him wisdom and knowledge. وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And that is how we reward those who attain to excellence, or those who work with excellence, the most beautiful of conduct. Again, he's a prophet, but the hukm and ilm that he is given, Allah says, that comes to the people of excellence, to the people of ihsan. Not anbiya, not rusul necessarily, but muhsinin. That's the sunnah of Allah. وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. The lady of the house in which he lived sought to seduce him. وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ. And she bolted the doors. وَقَالَتْ. And she said, هَيْتَ لَكَ. Come on. قَالَ مَعَاذَ اللَّهِ. Yusuf alayhi salam said, refuge of Allah. I seek the refuge of Allah. إِنَّهُ رَبِّي. He is my Rabb. Now, this is read both ways. Allah is my Rabb and I seek his refuge. Or this is referring to the Aziz, her husband, his master. That I am his slave. I am bound to him. I owe him this trust that he's left me alone with you. I can't betray that. Innahu Rabbi. Ahsana mathwai. He has provided me an honorable living. Innahu la yuflihu zalimun. And those who are unjust are never going to succeed. If I do not keep that trust, if I do not honor that trust, again, if anyone has a right to play victim here, that, oh my God, why in the world was I treated with such unfairness, such injustice? And this sense of being a victim and not being able to see any possibility of meaningfulness in your suffering, it does lead for you to feel that it's perfectly fine. If I'm unfair, if I'm unjust, if I don't play by the rules weren't followed in my case. I was picked up and thrown out of my house, down in the well, and then sold off, and then bought as a slave. How is any of that fair? And so if I've been victimized such and put through that trauma and that pain, if as a young adolescent or teenager, an a woman of power and apparently a lot of beauty and attraction, if she's calling me, then the hell, why not? But Yusuf alayhi salam, he says straight out, no, he's still able to see the goodness. It's it's pretty it's pretty incredible. He is still able to see the goodness. And where is he able to see this goodness? He's able to see this goodness in the one who bought him, the one who has kept him as a slave. And he feels like he owes him his trust. That he's going to honor that trust. He's not going to betray it. That he still owes Allah to live morally. He understands that this is going to be, that this zulm is not justified based on the zulm that I've experienced. And people who are unjust do not succeed. وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ. With a passion she desired him. وَهَمَّ بِهَا. He desired her. لَوْلَا أَرَّأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّي. Had he not seen a sign, some burhan from his Rabb. This connection with Allah, that this relationship of Rabb and Abd, that Yusuf alayhi salam was able to maintain and nurture despite everything, or even because of everything. This allowed for him, even in that state, where your fear, your desire can simply overpower all better sense, all better reason, all better moral sense. He is still able to see something, some sign, appreciate that this is not going to be done. I am not doing this. I'm getting the hell out of here. كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ. And so this is how it was that we could shield him from the evil and immorality. إِنَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا الْمُخْلَصِينَ. He was one of our chosen ibad. Mukhlasin, someone, again, this ubudiyah that he had given himself to, this prepared him. This enamored him with the moral uprightness such that even in that difficult of a situation, the sort of situation in which for a young man to hold himself back was incredibly challenging and difficult, to the point that the Quran acknowledges it. Yet he was able to do so. It is that moral uprightness and that Abd-Rabb relationship that stands up for you, that manifests itself in so many different ways within your own personality, in the environment, somehow, something or the other that ended up saving him. وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابِ. And so they raced towards the door. وَقَدَّتْ قَمِيصَهُ مِنْ دُبُرٍ. And she ripped his shirt from the back. وَأَلْفَيَا سَيِّدَهَا لَدَى الْبَابِ. And at the door, they met her husband. قالت ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك السوء. And she immediately thought on her feet, this is not a pretty situation to be in. Hubby was not supposed to be home. Hubby is home. He's standing there. All the doors that she locked, whatever happened to those doors? Whatever it is, she's looking at her husband. And she's not like, all in hijab and mashallah tabarakallah covered from head to toe. You can well imagine that if she's looking to seduce Yusuf alayhi salam, she's decked out. So what should be the punishment of one who has evil intentions towards your wife? إِلَّا أَن يُسْجَنَ وَعَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Except an imprisonment or a very painful punishment. Allah, Yusuf alayhi salam said, "Hiya rawadatni an nafsi." She's the one. She sought to seduce me. وَشَهِدَ الشَّاهِدُ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا. And a witness from her own family testified. So apparently, husband's not alone. He has company. So this embarrassing situation, it's not just her husband. He has somebody with him who is apparently from her family. He testifies. Again, him being from her family, shahidum min ahliha, he's not related to Yusuf. He can't be related to Yusuf. the truth of the claim that Yusuf alayhi salam is making. Yusuf alayhi salam makes a claim, the wife of the Aziz makes a claim. And they're both making claim from their own self. It's a self-referential claim, right? He's saying I'm innocent, she's saying I'm innocent. He's saying she's guilty, she's saying he's guilty. What do? The more distant the affirmation, the confirmation, the evidence from your own person, the stronger the credibility of your truth. And so Yusuf alayhi salam's case becomes stronger when somebody who's her relative says, okay, let's look at the objective evidence here. If his shirt is ripped from the front, فَصَدَقَتْ, then she's speaking the truth. وَهُوَ مِنَ الْكَاذِبِينَ, and he is one of the liars. وَإِنْ كَانَ قَمِيصُهُ قُدَّ مِنْ دُبُرٍ, but if the shirt is ripped from the back, from behind, فَكَذَّبَتْ, then she is lying. وَهُوَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ, and he is the one speaking the truth. فَلَمَّا رَأَى قَمِيصَهُ قُدَّ مِنْ دُبُرٍ, and so when her husband found Yusuf alayhi salam's shirt ripped from behind, all he said, إِنَّهُ مِنْ كَيْدِكُنَّ, this is one of your women's tricks. إِنَّ كَيْدَكُنَّ عَظِيمٌ, and for sure you women have mighty tricks. You have these big tricks. Again, his misogyny, his embarrassment, of course, but then him not doing anything either. And when this is in front of him, yet they want to hush it up. Yusuf, a'rid an hadha. Yusuf, let it go. Wastaghfiri li dhanbik. The most he can do. Seek forgiveness for your sin. Innaki kunti min al khati'in. You were the one at fault. But she gets away with it. The best that the husband can do at that point is abuse her, tell her that's her fault, and nicely requests Yusuf, which is pretty much a command since he's the owner and he's the slave, to let it go. But coming back, the sunnah that we see that the Quran follows, that in affirming its own truth, in affirming its own claim to truth, it invites the reader, the listener, to affirm from the most distant of sources. Shahida shahidum min ahliha. Let that shahid come from the Bani Israel. Let that shahid come from the world of nature. Let that shahid come from the Torah and the Injil. Let that shahid come from history. Let that shahid come from all of these disparate sources. And the more disparate the sources, the more varied the sources, the more distant they are from the Quran and from each other, the more the credibility of the truth claim. Coming back to the story. وَقَالَ نِسْفَةٌ فِي الْمَدِينَةِ, women of the town started talking. امرأة العزيز تراود فتاها نفسه. The minister's wife tried to seduce her young slave. قد شغفها حبا. She has fallen madly in love with him. Now, of course, the husband had company. As honest in judgment as that person was, speaking in favor of Yusuf alayhi salam, maybe he wasn't the only one, or maybe it was him. Somehow news leaks that the minister's wife is blank blank. She can't hold herself. She even has it for her slave boy. إِنَّا لَنَرَاهَا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. And we find her clearly off track. Again, how the sin of others, and that's the very integral role of gossip in a degenerate society. That all of these scandals, all of these, and there's a word for them, that when these celebrities have these, the scandal, right? Scandal is that word. When you're talking about how they're so mm, unfaithful, so bad, so addicted to this drug or that drug, and then coming out of rehab and going into rehab, and then cheating on their husbands and cheating on their wives and cheating on their boyfriends and cheating on this and cheating on that and not having it good, or politicians for that matter. Their degree of corruption, and they stole from here and they bribed him and they bribed that. Every degenerate society needs this gossip, these scandals, these slanders, these exaggerations, these rumors, and these true stories of corruption and evil, so as to make the members of that degenerate society feel good about themselves. See, we're so righteous, we're so nice, we're so good, we could never stoop to that level. And whatever guilt we have for being whatever way we are not good enough, or the little evil that we do here and there, it wanes in comparison. It wanes in comparison to the gravity of the evil of that person. And so the why does it spread like wildfire? Because each of us involved in spreading it, like, share, haha, it's it's speaking to us, speaking to an inner need, a guilt that actually wants to be allayed through proper means. Repent, make amends, start growing, make something of your life, do something responsible. That's too much trouble. Like, share, forward, comment, haha, how horrible are these people? Astaghfirullah. That's so much easier. That is so much easier. Why don't we just do that? Guilt goes down, you feel so righteous and nice about yourself in comparison to the evil of the other person, life moves on. Inna lanaraha fi dhalalin mubin. She is, astaghfirullah, way off track. فَلَمَّا سَمِعَتْ بِمَكْرِهِنَّ. So the gossip, it goes around so fast, it comes back to her. When she heard about their little gossips going around, أَرْسَلَتْ إِلَيْهِنَّ. She invited them. وَأَعْتَدَتْ لَهُنَّ مُتَّكَأً. And she arranged for them a reception. وَآتَتْ كُلَّ وَاحِدَةٍ مِّنْهُنَّ سِكِّينًا. And she gave each of them a knife. وَقَالَتْ اخْرُجْ عَلَيْهِنَّ. And so when they're all, doing their thing, talking, cutting their fruits or whatever, she said, Yousuf, can you come here for a bit? He wants to come. فَلَمَّا رَأَيْنَهُ. The moment they saw him, أَكْبَرْنَهُ. They were overwhelmed by him. وَقَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنَّ. And they cut off their hands. The word in the ayah seems to suggest that they intentionally cut their hands. And what has been read from this is that one of them may have cut off her hands unintentionally, like, and Yusuf alayhi salam, as the servant of the house, has to attend to her. He has to serve as the nurse, attend to her bleeding hand and God knows what else. The rest of the women are like, what the? How does she get that much attention? We want that nurse. And so they're like, me too. And they said, Hasha lillah. Oh my God. Ma hadha bashar. This is not a man. In hadha illa malakun kareem. This is but a noble angel. قالت, she said to them, فَذَلِكُنَّ الَّذِي لُمْتُنَّنِي فِيهِ. This is the one about whom you were blaming me. وَلَقَدْ رَاوَدتُّهُ وَنَفْسِي. And yes, I did try to seduce him. فَاسْتَعْصَمْ. But he held strong. وَلَئِن لَمْ يَفْعَلْ مَا آمَرُهُ. And so if he does not do what I am asking him to do, لَا يَسْجُنَنَّ. He will indeed be thrown into prison. وَلَا يَكُونًا مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. And he will be humiliated in the sight of the people. Allah, Yusuf alayhi salam, responded, Rabbi as-sijnu ahabbu ilay. Prison is dearer to me. I'd rather be in prison. Mimma yad'unani ilay. Rather than what they invite me to do. So it's not just her anymore. all of them are taking their shots at Yusuf alayhi salam. All of them are now going to look for some way or the other to have him. He's like, Ya Allah, can't take this anymore. Send me to prison. I'll be better off there. وَإِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنَّ. If you don't save me from their trap, أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ. I will incline towards them. I'm not going to hold on to my righteousness or my ability to have saved myself before, or my nobility. My father is a prophet, my grandfather is a prophet, my great-grandfather is a prophet. I saw this wonderful dream in which the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing to me, for crying out loud. I can hold myself strong. Like, no way. Ain't happening. Ya Allah, prison. I prefer prison. وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. I will be of those who are overtaken by their instincts. فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ. So his Rabb accepted his prayer. فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنَّ. And he averted them, he saved him from their trap. إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Sure, Allah is hearing and knowing. ثُمَّ بَدَا لَهُم مِّن بَعْدِ مَا رَأَوُا الْآيَاتِ. Even after seeing all the signs, it appeared to them appropriate لَيَسْجُنَنَّهُ حَتَّى حِينٍ, that he should be in prison for some time. وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ